It's always a very informative and thought-provoking when called Why Your Life Sucks. It amused me a whole bunch when he told me about it. It'll be perfect. This is an entertaining and informative look, as well as examples from the book. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Tommy back to our podium.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Good.
I'm happy to be back at the Temple of Light in Clearwater, Florida. I always enjoy being here. I like the energy here. All that stuff she was talking about, she wasn't talking about to anybody here. She was talking about those other people that you know. When I was a young man in my 20s, that was a couple of years ago, I was attending a psychology class at St. Petersburg College. And I really loved this class. Boy, it was one of my favorite, and I especially liked the instructor, Dr. Beerbaum. Now, we were very fortunate to have this famous author and research psychologist for our facilitator. He was a very funny fellow, and everybody loved him. Now, I always looked forward to going to that class, but I was very much looking forward to the class this particular night because we planned to take a field trip to his home. And one of Dr. Beerbaum's specialties was human engineering, and he had designed his home to be ultra efficient and convenient, and I just love that kind of stuff. So we were all looking forward to it. We heard his house was the talk of the neighborhood. His neighbors called it the house with the hole, and we were dying to find out what that meant. But when we got to class that night, Dr. Beerbaum wasn't there. Instead, there was a woman sitting at the desk who would eventually introduce herself to us as our new instructor. She gave us the news that Dr. Beerbaum had committed suicide that day by going in a closet and putting a shotgun in his mouth. What a complete shock that was to everyone. No one knew that the good doctor was so unhappy. He had a great job as a chairman of the psychology department. He was well respected by his peers, and he had much prestige and many friends. Yet, while Dr. Beerbaum had an advanced degree in psychology and taught others how to make sense out of their lives, he could not find purpose in his own. In spite of all appearances, Dr. Beerbaum's life sucked. And it sucked so bad that he thought he had to end it to find peace. And as Val said, many years ago I read a book by one of my favorite authors, Alan Cohen, entitled Why Your Life Sucks. So I decided that one day I would write a lesson inspired by that book. So for better or for worse, today's lesson is called Why Your Life Sucks. How many of you have heard someone say, life sucks? I mean, now I know that none of you have ever felt that way, but probably you know someone who said those words, right? So I'm going to give you some thoughts to share with your friends to inspire them to think differently about their life. Now, I'm very aware that I'm talking to spiritualists here, so I know that for us, there isn't a question of whether there's life after death. The real question is there life before death? Benjamin Franklin once said this. He said, most people die at age 25, but they're not buried until 75. Why would you be unhappy with your life? There are a lot of reasons, and we're going to talk about some of them today. By the way, this might not seem like the kind of religious kind of discussion that you would expect in a church, but I believe churches should talk about things that help people. And this topic may not seem religious, but it's very spiritual. So let's get started. Are you ready?
Yes.
Reason number one, and I'll bet many of you are already way ahead of me trying to figure out what these reasons are. So let's see if you're right. Reason number one, your life may suck because you give your power away. Have any of you seen the movie The Truman Show? Oh yeah, I see some heads nodding. In the Truman Show, Jim Carrey portrays a man who, unbeknownst to him, lives his entire life on a bigger-than-life television stage. While Truman thinks he's making personal choices, every aspect of his life is being manipulated by a calculating producer behind the scenes from a distant control room. Eventually, Truman gets wind of the scheme, and he tries to escape from the small town that he's never ventured beyond. But in order to make sure that their television show doesn't die, the producers stage obstacle after obstacle to thwart Truman's attempts to break free. At one point, an assistant in the control room asks the producer, "Do you think he'll ever be able to find his way out?" And the producer answers, "If he was absolutely determined to leave, he could do it at any time. The truth is, he prefers his life." Do you prefer your world? Is your life, the life you're living, one that you prefer or one that others prefer for you? Sometimes it seems easier to let others decide for us. And in matters that are inconsequential, it's no big deal. However, if you make important life decisions by default, you'll never know who you really are. For instance, many people get a job right out of high school and continue to work in that job or work for that type of work for their whole life, with no thought of whether they might want to pursue something else. Now, many of you know I retired from General Electric. Well, there were folks who retired with me that had worked at that same facility since high school, never knew any other job. Sometimes a son is expected to take up the same work as his father, and not much thought given to anything else. That's giving your power away. It's not living your life. Let's go on. Reason number two. Reason number two, your life may suck because you expect your life to suck. I'll bet you can think of people that you know that live their lives as though they believe that they deserve pain. You know anybody like that? You know, there are several Bible verses that tell us that you are God's. Yeah, it says that. Doesn't that make you feel good? Kind of lofty and deserving?